Alright, welcome to another stream. Last time, where we left off, we managed to beat Gym 2. Again, our AI right now is not the most sophisticated AI in the world. Instead, we'll just try to choose the most damaging move, and it's barely holding on by a thread in these last few gyms. The last time, whenever we ran it and it beat Gym 2, it only barely managed to win with only 2 Pokemon remaining. So if we were to add in the encounters up to Gym 3, I think the success rate would drop off, and beyond that, it will get worse and worse. So this stream, the objective of today, is going to be to replace, or at least start the training of our reinforcement learning battler. Instead of the current AI, which is just a best move battler, picking the strongest move and using it, we are going to start the process of creating our own battler that will learn from its failures and to try to do better in battling. Additionally, we will then be running it in the run and try to add support for evolving Pokemon, which we currently don't have, which I think will really be a game changer as well. As well as, if we get to it, including our more advanced team builder, though I think that won't be as required for its success in these early gyms. So I think maybe for the first 30 minutes of stream or so, I'll start by just adding more encounters in the gym document, or in our run document, and then kind of go from there. Or actually, I guess we can go ahead and start by looking into the reinforcement learning approach. So let's clean up the code a little bit, reorganize it. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of everything, just in case anything happens. That way we can clean up the structure of this code, run things again, and make sure that everything is in a way that just really makes sense. The copy is still being made. Alright, in the meantime, let's start by pulling up the documentation at least, so that we can be taking a look at this stuff. Alright, let's look at the reinforcement learning with OpenAI Gym. So let's copy their default idea, and we'll basically follow the same process as their default, so that we can see how it does. Still copying, making a backup, and just taking a long time. For reference, the file is copying right now. It says it's going to take another 25 seconds. Okay, there we go. We've made a backup, so let's start messing around with the folder structure a little bit just to clean things up here. So actually to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and close out of Atom and open up the folder in a file explorer. And the point is that right now we have a bunch of files and just all sorts of stuff all over the place. And we really want to clean this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, since this is a Python package, a overall folder, which we're going to call something like Nuzlocke Nuzlocke AI. That'll be like our package name. Oh wait, did we already have a Nuzlocke AI folder? Well, I guess we don't want the dash because we can't have a dash in the name. So that makes sense. And inside this Nuzlocke folder, we are going to want to have our various subfolders. Yeah, we want models, but we don't want notebooks in there. And these also go on in there. There we go. So now we've added a lot of things into the Nuzlocke AI folder, except for some of our just kind of external files. And we can go ahead and delete this PyCache thing because that'll get rebuilt. Anyways. So inside Nuzlocke AI, we also will need a new file that's in init.py. So now we can open back up Atom so it won't fuss at us so much about all of the files that we are creating. We're going to create a new one called init.py. We'll fill this out in a little bit, but for now we're going to leave it blank because we still need to structure everything else that's inside of this. And basically our idea is that Nuzlocke AI will now be a Python package that everything else just imports. And you can just run some scripts saying python-m Nuzlocke AI run and just give it some command line arguments and have it do the rest. This will help us because then we can train the model en masse in like a couple of different ways without needing to write a whole lot of actual code to do that. So we have this init.py. The data, I'm going to go ahead and actually scoot the data back out. Same with the models. I'll move the models back out. But for Nuzlocke, let's name this, instead of Nuzlocke, let's rename this something like Nuzlocke utils. And this is going to be files related to the Nuzlocke utils. And then we're going to have player AI, which is going to be files related to player AI. Replays, I'm also going to scoot out. Showdown, I'm going to rename this to be Showdown Utils. Trainer AI is again self-explanatory. And I'm going to add a new folder called scripts. And these are going to be for running things. So I'm going to take all of these and put them into scripts. There we go. So our new folder structure looks like a couple of utils folders, a player AI folder, a trainer AI folder, and a scripts folder. Then in trainer AI, I'm going to create a couple of subfolders. So I'm going to create one for best move, which is going to have both best move and best move double. I'm going to create a folder for essentials, which is going to have essentials AI, Ruby, Python, game AI double, and game AI in it. Because our game AI is basically the essentials AI. A new one called MISC, where I'm going to put things like high power and switch best move. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put the best move players also in MISC. That way you can get these kind of alternative battlers that you can just import from the library, but the main one is going to be this essentials. So it's a lot more clean now, our code structure. Before, there were like tons of files all over the place, and that just made it a headache. So the last thing is just to add some stuff to our init files. So we're going to say from .misc.bestmove, from misc.bestmove double. We can basically just add .misc to each of these. And then these ones are going to be .essentials .game AI. There we go. So this this trainer AI folder is now much more simple, and it's kind of a relatively understandable format. So if we want to add more AI, it's clear where we do it, and it's clear where we change the code so that everything else can import it. And our goal is that anybody should be able to just install this as a package and use it themselves. So before, it was a headache with all sorts of codes shuffled around everywhere. But now it's a little bit cleaned up. And also, if you're a new viewer to the stream, just so you know, we've got something that's just a very simple rule-based algorithm so far that is beaten up to Gym 2. And now our goal for today's stream, which will be going for about another 4.5 hours or so, will be to start doing reinforcement learning, which is machine learning, in order to create a kind of machine learning based battler. Hopefully that'll be able to kind of bridge the gap as we add more gyms for it to try to fight through and improve the results. Because right now it is consistently beating Gym 2, but with only a couple Pokemon left. And sometimes it fails. In fact, sometimes it fails on the initial rival fights. So what we want to do is improve it altogether so we can get a higher consistency. I think the current goal will be maybe for, by the end of next week, have it beating half the game. So maybe like up to Gym 5 or something. But we'll see, because it's just a little bit tedious to add more gym details. The way we're doing it right now is we have this Excel spreadsheet called Pokemon Black Run, which has basically every trainer detail in the game. And we are manually creating this document. So it's got every single battle that happens in order, whether it's required or not. Is it a single battle, double battle? What Pokemon are involved? And this is just for the simulation, so we can train a model and simulate how it's going to do. Because it would be hundreds of times slower to do this even on an actual emulator. So for while we're testing things and getting something up and running, we are using a simulator using Pokemon Showdown to mimic the battles that you would have in game. But that also means that we have to tediously copy every single trainer in order, what encounters you could possibly get in order, what are the odds of every encounter, what levels, etc. So it's a little bit tedious, but we've got it to Gym 2 so far, and it's winning Gym 2, so the method's working at least. And last time we proved that it wasn't cheating. Everything is working exactly as we were wanting it to. Okay, I also need to add a init.py file here, because this needs to say from .essentials AI Python import stuff. Okay, that's good. That's good. We can get rid of this essentials.py file because we don't need it. All right. So there's our trainer AI stuff written up. We also have no files in Showdown utils yet, so we'll just leave this blank because it would probably be worth it to put some scripts in there to clean things up so we're not copy pasting everything over again. I'm going to skip scripts for now because we'll do that last. Player AI, team builder. Yeah, this makes sense because this is creating the model. The only thing is right now, where are we telling it to save the model? Or are we telling it to save the model at all? We're hard coding this, so we'll need train model to also give data directory, which is a string, so that we can swap out that. There we go. This returns the model, but what about saving the model out? I guess we just left that as the responsibility of the user. That would make sense. Okay. Let's also create a new general folder called just utils. This is just for general utils. Pokecache.py. I'm going to put things related to our API caching stuff in here. So if we look at Team Builder, we have this class. I'm going to cut and paste it. This is going to be for the API processing. We're going to say def get Pokédex entry, which will take in the species as a string and return. This is a complicated object, so I'm gonna tell it not to return anything and just have it give the cache, which is a Pokécache. and it will return nothing. And all this is going to do is this. Pokédex entry equals requests. I need to import requests. I need to import JSON. Right, so the current goal for today is to first, just for like the first 30 minutes or so, I'm cleaning up the code and I'll just run it again just to make sure everything's still working. And then after that, it's going to be creating a first proof of concept reinforcement learning trained battler. So hopefully that won't be too bad. There's a tutorial on the Pokemon documentation for how to get something set up. So we'll kind of just follow it a little bit, but before I do that, I want to clean things up so it doesn't become even more of a mess as we're introducing more files and more complicated things. So it's not the most fun process, but it's just something that we've been putting off for a while, and it's something that really needs to be done, is just cleaning up the code a little bit. Okay. Okay, that part is done too. Okay, in team processing, I'm going to put some of the functions like building a random team. So that's where I'm going to do something like from dot pokecache import pokecache. import numpy as np. Okay, this will generate a random one. Random team size. Let's get rid of this min thing so it's just balanced again. Get Pokédex entry, and then we just need to pass in the same stuff, Poke and Pokecache. Then we need to call get species entry. We need to fix this up a little bit. A list of strings, which we're going to do competitive, slush, rush, and weak armor. There we go. That's our banned abilities, which we need because our API does not let us only see old abilities, which is a little bit annoying, but oh well. Select a random ability out of the options. Select a random set of moves for the Pokemon. Select a random gender given the weight to the odds of the Pokemon. And then lastly, we need to generate the EVs and IVs of the Pokemon. So this is going to generate random EVs and IVs. Or the EVs are all set to 1. It's because Showdown doesn't let us do 0 across the board. Because it tells you, hey, you forgot to set EVs. But setting it all to 1 does basically the same thing. There's no stat difference, even at level 100, between 0 EV and 1 EV, so... oh well. And then we construct the Pokemon out of the randomly selected options. So this constructs the Pokemon, adds it to the team, and then lastly, we use our kind of function to create a Showdown readable team out of the team. So now, instead of needing to copy paste this code everywhere that we wanted to run it, we can just have it in one place. And that way we don't need to worry about changing it in all the different areas. Oh, I guess we should also do something like gen tag is a string, which for now is just black white, because we are doing things in Pokemon Black and White. Alright, that's all the details we need for building a random team. So actually we can delete that whole thing. And what we'll say instead, don't think we need JSON. We have imported pandas twice. We'll cut this and put it over here. We'll cut that, put it over here. Is we can say from dot utils import build random team, and we need to say from team processing import build random team. And we also should probably go ahead and say from PokeCache import PokeCache. There we go. Alright, so now our imports are a little bit more aligned. Our code is a little bit more simplified. What's this is Pokemon included? Okay, it's just used here. So it's just a helper function. Probably should be writing doc strings for everything. There. And both of these are strings. Python is not a typed language, by the way, but what these are kind of type hints. So if you use a Python linter or some like kind of testing libraries, it can check to see if you are going against the types that you have put in your functions. So it doesn't break the code and it won't throw an error if your types don't match, but it can kind of help you diagnose some issues in debugging. So, plus, it just kind of makes it a little bit more readable to tell what this function is, because at certain points we have this team builder Pokemon object, at certain points we have a different Pokemon object, and at other times we want it as a string. So giving the type hint also just kind of clarifies what it should be at this point in time, on what it's expecting. This train model is still very hard-coded, but for now we don't need to touch it too much. I just wanted to do a little bit. Also, since we now have like 100,000 simulated battles, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust everything to be 90,000. So the training is the first 90,000 battlers. I have it for our our team building AI, which we've already made. It's trained on 4 gigs of GPU memory. That's because I'm streaming on the same GPU that I'm training models. So unless I get a second GPU, I need to limit the resources that any sort of machine learning training is going to use. In fact, I forgot to do it a couple of weeks ago, and it just led to the whole stream crashing. I had to restart my computer. Alright, so I think that's these functions are all similar to the team builder. So these can all stay here. And team processing is doing well. So team builder is fixed and is importing from the correct way, and it's more usable now. We can add the dots there like we need to. Okay, So now let's start messing around with the trainer AI. So this init is already done. It works exactly as we need. Best move double. Is there anything that needs to change here? Don't think so. Everything still makes sense because these are all just libraries that you install. Same with best move. Same with high power. And same with switch best move. We could make double battlers out of these. But for now, I don't think we need to. We could also simplify how this works to make it a little bit more clear. But it's working, and we're not going in for the sake of simplifying our code. We're going in for the sake of restructuring our code. So you have to pick your battles sometimes. All right, game AI. This we don't need to change because it's just using some internal stuff, which is good. That means we don't need to change anything here. Great. Because these would be an annoying thing to have to change. So now our trainer AI is done. The player AI also done. Or like the restructuring of the player AI, I should say. Encounter pool. Yes. We should change how we do this. Get Poke API info. Is this using a cache or not? Uh-oh. This might not be using a cache. Get Poke API info. Possible abilities, odds, female, and moveset. So what we can do is we can get this to use the cache. So this is part of the point of restructuring our code. It shows us areas where we were not efficient, and this was making a request each time for data that we already had. So what we can do instead is maybe in PokeCache, we'll just write a helper function because maybe it should belong there. We should do something like def get get encounter basic info, and this would be giving it a Pokemon, which is a string, a cache, which is a PokeCache, we would also need the version name, which is a string, which is black-white for us. And we also need the move method. Actually, we don't need the move method. In fact, actually, yeah, we should do the move method. Because we just want to get rid of this whole function, which we're going to say is level up. Because this is to mimic what a Pokemon would be if you just encountered one in the wild. So this is going to return three things. It's going to return a list of possible abilities, a list of string. It's going to return a float, which is the odds female. And it's going to return a list of moves, which is also a list of strings. So it's returning those three things. Get the basic details of an encountered Pokemon from the Poke API, which is the abilities, odds, female, and level up learn set. Okay, so we've got that. And now we just can basically copy paste most of this stuff and then reduce it down to make it more simple. For example, we can get rid of these two lines. We can just say get Pokédex entry with the Poké in the cache. Get species entry with the Poké in the cache. Delete this whole thing. And then in the random teams, which was in utils, we just need to do this. Oh, we don't want to give a random ability though. We just want to do possible abilities. Cache.dex cache. Yep. Poké abilities. Not in banned abilities. Oh, yep. We also need to pass in banned abilities, which is a list of strings, which for now is just going to be our basic banned abilities. Because these are just the abilities that we found were having a problem. Hey, welcome to the stream. We are cleaning up code. Not the most exciting of content, but we're almost done. We just are trying to organize ourselves a little bit because we're going to start in like maybe 15 minutes or so once this is done, doing reinforcement learning. And that's going to be several files of multiple different things going on. And if our code is a mess before, it's going to be hell after. So it's better just to get that out of the way and have it cleaned up. Okay, so we get our possible abilities there. Then we need the move set. I'm just going to copy this whole thing. There we go. And that's it. That's all we needed from this function. So now we have a simplified function, which is to get the basic encounter info, so that now in where was it? Team Builder? No, it was in Encounter Pool. We can stop making so many repeated calls to the API, which we're not supposed to do. So there's Encounter, there's Encounter Pool, build encounters, start, okay. Yep, okay, and so this is in PokéCache, so we need to say from .utils import PokéCache and we also need get encounter basic info. Yeah, so right now, what the code will be doing is we are simulating battles using Pokemon Showdown, which is an online Pokemon battle simulator. But the goal is to, after we've trained a model that can do well on Pokemon Showdown and play through the whole game on Pokemon Showdown, which we've got an Excel spreadsheet of like all of the battles and all of the Pokemon you can catch. Like, we're up to Gym 2 right now. Then we'll be confident that it can play on a ROM, and we'll hook it up to actually play on like an emulated Pokemon game, and we'll have the whole run happen live on stream. But for now, it's all just the prep work of simulating things, because that's more of the kind of showy part, will be the presentation of it working. To actually train the model, it's much faster to be able to simulate it, like literally like thousands of times faster. We can do a battle in like 2 seconds or so using simulated battles on Showdown, whereas if you were playing even with like a huge amount of speed up on an emulator, it would be like a minute or two each battle. So it's very fast to simulate it. Plus we can do multiple battles at the same time. Yeah. So there's our get encounter basic info, and we can replace this. That's interesting. Yeah, we are doing right now. The game we're targeting is Pokemon Black, and we're creating AI using Python that's going to be, attached to that game, attached to like specifically the ROM running in like an emulator. If Pokemon Black ends up being like, if there ends up being some problems with it, we'll switch to a different Pokemon game, which there are potentially a couple of problems. But for now, it's been perfectly fine. And we've actually been able to beat Gym 2 successfully, even without introducing machine learning. If you just have a bot that picks the most damaging move each time, no concerns about switching or using items or anything, you can beat Gym 2 pretty consistently, even in Nuzlocke rules with a level cap, banning items, and all these other restrictions that we're playing under, because the Pokemon games are not the most challenging games in the world. So we'll be adding more gyms and more battles, because right now it goes through 40 battles each time. So it's winning 40 battles in a row consistently. But we'll see if it can keep up that performance as we add more battles. Unfortunately, that's a very manual process, so I tend to try to add those battles and that information off stream, because it's just very tedious manually entering every single Pokemon on every team of every battle in the whole game in order. It's just a huge process. But there we go. So now we need to also pass in a cache. So actually, we'll probably pass in a cache here. Yeah, and I think it's going fairly well so far. Like, my goal is to have this project done by the end of February, so that we can pick another project for March and do that. I started streaming at the start of this year, so I'm just learning as I go. So if you have any other ideas for other interesting projects involving AI, it doesn't have to be Pokemon related or even game related, let me know. I also have like a suggestion box down below the chat, which you can check out as well and submit suggestions for other ideas. And I don't know if it works, but in theory, I have like loyalty points set up. So if you have like points that are building up from watching the stream, you can use the points for asking questions for help or career advice or Python help or what my favorite color is, whatever you want. I have no idea how to balance the points or what a good amount is. So maybe it's too cheap, maybe it's too expensive, let me know. Yeah, the idea is just to have a chill stream where I'm working on this AI, but feel free to ask about any sort of concept. I just started a new job. I had been working for 2 years at a different company. I'm a head data scientist at a startup company here in Tokyo. Not working on Pokemon stuff in my actual job. But yeah, so if you have any questions about anything like that, feel free to let me know in the chat. Okay, so we need to set the cache at the very beginning. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Data frame. And then we also need to say from typing import optional. There we go. Okay, so now get encounter basic info. It's going to require the Pokemon, which we said is species. So it needs species. It needs the self.cache. It needs do I have black white set up in this? I'll have to set it up probably here. Okay, self.cache, self.version name. And then we also need some of these things to be specified, but actually we don't need to specify them here because those are just going to be the defaults. There we go. And it'll pick a random ability, a random gender, random moves based off of the move set. And there we go. So this function is now updated to use our new restructure. So it should work. We'll have to test it to make sure that it works. But for now, it seems right. And this will just make our code a lot more efficient. So hopefully we could even simulate like hundreds of runs at the same time. And the point of that is just so that we can get success rate. We can say that this AI beats a Nuzlocke 60% of the time or something, or even plot where it fails. Like if we simulate tens of thousands of runs, you can see like what percentage made it to the first gym, what percentage made it to the second gym. So you know that's an added benefit of restructuring the code like we're doing now. It just makes it much more easy to follow. Oh, and also if you're new to the stream, I push all of my code to a public GitHub. The link is in the description of the stream. I think it's like on one of my buttons. You can check it down there. Or if you just go to GitHub, my handle is Volander AI, same as the stream name. And all of the projects that I'll be working on this year will be pushed and updated at the end of every stream, or whenever I update it, even in my free time. So if you ever want to follow along or try things out yourself, add more runs to the run data so I don't have to, feel free, let me know, or just pull the code, check it out on GitHub. Now, like, the code will be severely out of date right now because we just did a huge restructure, or we're in the middle of finishing up a huge restructure, but I'll push it after we finish the restructure, and if you're interested, check it out. Okay, enough shilling of my stuff, and focus on finishing this stuff up. Because we still have a couple big ones to do, which are Nuzlocke run. So we need to say from dot Nuzlocke utils. Import encounter pool. Encounter pool import. Encounter pool. There we go. Nice. And then this is going to be from trainer AI. Don't need to change anything else. I might centralize all this server config and simulating battles to just this showdown utils folder. But for now, since that seems like it might be a little bit annoying or even maybe a bad idea, I'm going to leave it alone. Yeah. Okay, so Nuzlocke run seems to be working. This should probably go in team processing, this whole function of build teams. Team build, not so much, but build teams should. Also, we'll want to, I'm going to go ahead and add that as a to-do. Use the player AI team builder to select the best team instead of a random team. To do, update this logic to evolve Pokemon based on level. To do, update this logic to evolve Pokemon based on item. To do, update this logic to give held items to Pokemon. Okay, lots of to-dos for the team builder, but for now, at least early on in the game, you don't actually have to put much thinking into the team building, because you'll just actually use all of the Pokemon that you have, because you won't have many Pokemon, so there's no thought that needs to go into it. And technically by the second gym you could evolve some of your Pokemon, but it doesn't really make or break the whole run. So we've actually just gotten away with beating the second gym without evolving any of your Pokemon. So it's like it's doing an extra challenge run of using a random team, not evolving Pokemon, anything like that. So improving this function, even if it doesn't use extra AI, will make the rest of it much better. Okay, find dead Pokemon. That function is still working and doesn't use anything extra. Oh, except replay folder. This needs to be replay folder / our name. There we go. That's a little bit smarter of an approach. What next do we need to update? I think not really anything else. Oh, we do need to add an init.py file here. Otherwise, it won't work. So Nuzlocke run is the important one. This is what allows us to simulate a Nuzlocke. Ladder run is important. This is what allows us to simulate hundreds of battles at once to get information about the battles that are happening. So we want to get this working, which is just relatively straightforward. Game AI, best move player. Good. This makes sense. I'm gonna reorganize it just a little bit so it's a little bit more sensical. Good. Okay. Oh, also, we don't need to recreate the whole cache. Instead, what we'll say is we'll say from utils import PokeCache. And we want to import build random team. Because we don't want to use this build random team function anymore. We want it to be centralized so that no matter where we are, if we run build random function or build random team, we know we're using the same function. So any change, we don't have to think about it. It'll just work everywhere. Okay. Challenge ladder. This all will still make sense exactly like the rest will. Nothing needs to be moved around. Simulate ladder is just a simple function that we can modify. We can make some of these command line arguments. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and move that there just to do it because it doesn't require any effort, but there. Oh, and it's an optional string. Nice. Okay, so I think that should work too. Run loading. We don't need this file anymore. We can just straight up delete this file. Simple test. Let's go ahead and keep this because this was good for diagnosing issues, and I think this will be good for diagnosing issues in the future. We can rename it. Instead of being simple test, let's rename it to something like single battle test. Something like that. Because this is just a helpful function to just run a single battle, see what happens, print all the information out to the screen, and know what's going on. We use this function a lot on Tuesday to optimize our opponent AI, which we just finished creating. Or, like, there's still plenty of improvements. It doesn't understand how to use protect, but it's all a rule-based algorithm that we're coding to work as closely as possible to the real game AI. Hence why it's called game AI, because it's supposed to mimic the opponents that you would face in a real Pokemon game. Okay, so we just need to change a couple of things like ..trainer AI. We can get rid of this tabulate because I don't think we need it. We don't need cross-evaluate. And sure, we'll just import all of these to give them as options. Nice. Test async. This was just whenever we were trying to troubleshoot some async stuff, so we can delete that. There we go. So we've simplified our code. We managed to just delete some code that was just completely unneeded, which is great. Let's just say from Nuzlocke run. Yeah, we'll say from Nuzlocke run import do run, because we might want to offer that as a thing to import and run, and load run data. Sure, that would make sense to do. Also, we should say from .ladder run import simulate ladder. There we go. So we could add these as scripts that run, and that will make things a lot easier to use for like the user, like once we're kind of exporting this, and also from the command line. Lastly, we made some changes. I'm going to close out of a lot of these files because we don't need them anymore. Nuzlocke run. We made some changes to encounter pool that now it will ask for a cache and a version name. We don't need to give the version name because we're still playing Pokemon Black and White, but we do need to give the cache. So let's ask for the cache, which is going to be an optional string. Which means we also need to import PokeCache here. So we need to say from ... utils import PokeCache. There we go. So we can say if cache, or no, we can just say cache is equal to PokeCache path, because if it's none, it will create a brand new cache, and we don't need to worry about it. Cache is equal to cache. There we go. Let's test out if this works. I expected we're gonna have some sort of import issues, and like maybe we forgot a dot somewhere or we forgot some sort of import. So we won't know 100%, but oh, actually, a very obvious one. Oh, I just messed up my display a little bit. There we go. I moved around my preview window. Okay, we need to actually give it the cache path. Forgot to do that real quick. Cache path is equal to data slash, what is it called? PokeCache.json. There we go. We've got PokeCache.json, and we'll just pass it in. Okay, so before even running it, we knew there was going to be one error, but let's try it now. So we're going to have to say something like Python Nuzlocke AI slash scripts slash Nuzlocke run.py. Attempted relative import, no known parent package. We might be forgetting a init.py somewhere. This is inside Nuzlocke run. What we can do is we can say from .scripts import where did we put it? There we go. Simulate ladder. Oh, from .scripts, not from .script. Python import Nuzlocke AI. No module name Nuzlocke AI .scripts .nuzlocke _ run. Oh, I misspelled it over here. I misspelled it Nuzlocke with an E, or without an E. I need to rename that. Non-default argument follows default argument. This is in PokeCache. So let's take a look at PokeCache. It's probably whenever I created one of those functions that has a bunch of stuff in it. Probably this function, maybe. So version name, smooth, competitive. What's it complaining about? So we have PokeCache, version name, move method. Oh, oops. I forgot the equal sign. Optional is not defined. Okay, we're just getting the fact that the error message changes each time is actually good, because that means we're making progress. Okay, and now it imports, at least. Which means we can, out here, create a new file called test, which is going to say import Nuzlocke AI. And here we'll say if name equals main. What we're going to do is, if we look at Nuzlocke AI's init.py, we have this load run data. So we're going to say data equals that and give it a path, which is going to be data slash Pokemon blackrun.xlsx. Pokemon blackrun.xlsx. And we can actually, now that I think about it, just copy paste this code. But just add Nuzlocke AI to the start of these, and then we need to say import async IO. All right, now we can really test it and make sure that it all works as a Python library. Oops, not what I meant to do. Python test.py. No module named Nuzlocke. I can't help but misspell it. Yeah, can't help but misspell it. Species entry is not defined. Okay, more just issues of whenever we restructure our code. Again, the culprit is PokeCache. It's saying on line 101 that species entry is not defined. Oh, because we need to swap out this with cache dot, not dex cache, but species cache. Like, there we go. Gen tag is not defined. Okay. PokeCache line 107, gen tag is not defined because we called it version name instead of gen tag. There we go. Okay. Oh, missing one. Find dead Pokemon is missing one required argument. Our restructure is almost done because clearly it's now starting the Nuzlocke but just failing. It's just because we need to pass in our replay directory, which is just... this should probably be... replay path. Oh, I need to actually use that variable. Otherwise, it does not make much sense if I just don't use it. Oh, almost there. List index out of range. Replay folder / our name.html. Did I call it replay or replays? Replays. Does it find dead Pokemon? Did we do replay path and then our name, or our name and then replay path? Find dead. Our name and then replay folder. And we're passing in replays. Interesting. It might have to be a relative path. Let's try doing that. Let's try giving it a replay path, or relative path, which would be ... / replays, because it's in scripts. So ... would be to get to Nuzlocke, ... would be to get to the root folder, and then the replays folder inside of it. So let's just try that, because maybe it's just that simple. Nope, it's not quite. I wonder if it is... looking in the wrong folder. Like, obviously, the issue here is that the code is running in here in Nuzlocke run.py, but our replays folder is out here, so we need to kind of get out and look there. Which I would think would just be this simple. And it's not a typo, so the most common error I have is not the correct error. I think this is just the last issue too. We need the replay because we used the replay to find what Pokemon died in battle. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a workaround, but it's not that bad. It's finding the cache, so at least I think it is. I'm gonna check to see if it's finding the cache. If it's finding the cache, then... Oh, it's not finding the cache. So yeah, something's going kind of annoying with our cache stuff. So maybe instead of creating the cache in here, I'm going to instead create it outside and pass it in. Like this. from .utils import Pokecache, and then we'll pass in the actual cache into do run instead of cache path. Which is an optional Pokecache, which is none. Okay. So that'll at least fix our empty cache problem. But it doesn't quite fix our glob problem. Yeah. Because now the cache has all sorts of Pokemon in it, which is great. But our replays information is not quite there. Do run, we are Nuzlocke replay path. Replay path. Oh, I was passing in the cache path for the replay path. That's one thing. That might have been what was breaking it the whole time. I was passing in the wrong thing. Cache equals cache. Yeah, that's all it was. I just, I skipped an argument, so I was passing in the cache for replays instead of the cache for the cache. Okay, so what's being printed in this command line is just results of each battle, but what we can do is we can actually, if we go to, not Pokemon, local host 8192, I've got Pokemon Showdown running on this. Oh, I should remove this troubleshooting information. This is from Game AI Double Battler. Let me just remove this real quick so it doesn't clog up our information. Trainer AI, Essentials, Game AI Double. This is whenever we were troubleshooting some problems with the Game AI. We had to figure out why it wasn't working. Actually, we haven't fixed the double battler, but we did fix the single battler, and now it doesn't cause nearly as many problems. Where's our point? What's happening? Yeah. There. Now it won't clog up our stuff nearly as much whenever we run it again. You can see there's a lot of growls going on. And actually, we haven't fixed the problem with double battles, but a recap of our investigation on Tuesday, it turns out that the creators of the library that we're using, PokeEnv, they did not anticipate you having duplicates of the same Pokemon. So they used the species name instead of the slot number for a lot of things. And what that means is that if you try to switch Pokemon, but you're switching to a duplicate, it will send a message that Showdown thinks is nonsense. Showdown will want the slot number because you've got duplicate Pokemon, and that just giving the species name doesn't tell it enough information. Because of that, it'll just ask you to redo your move, which leads to problems like this with the double battler. So this can happen where it's doing all sorts of stuff and it gets caught up doing the same move over and over and over again. But last time it didn't take too long to run, and we were able to sort it out. Oh, I accidentally keyboard up interrupted. Well, we'll run it again now that it's not going to print all that stuff, and now we can actually watch the battles too. Once it gets stuck on a battle, we can watch it, because unfortunately these battles are so fast that they show up and disappear like immediately. Ooh. Like you can see them like pop up and then go away, because these battles last like 2 seconds. Oh, managed to catch one. Okay, so this is an instant replay of the battle that just happened. And we can also just watch the replays. And so this is what I mean by a simulated run of Pokemon. This is a valid set of encounters that you could have by the time you're at this trainer in the game. Don't mind the opponents being named like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This was a workaround because of actually the problem we mentioned before, which was them like not sending the species number. We ended up just naming each Pokemon the slot number so that Pokemon Showdown would understand what's going on. And so this is why this is not the best AI to use. This is just picking the highest damaging opponent. Anybody reasonable could have just switched to the Pokemon that has a super effective move, and they would have saved their starter there. But instead, it just kept trying to use the move that Snivy had that was the most damaging, and so it lost its starter. It still easily won the battle, but that could have been a win by such a higher margin. So that's our room for improvement. Let's check out what's going on in this battle that's stuck. It's probably going to be, if I had to guess, waiting for player input, because it's just telling it to redo over and over and over again because there are duplicate Pokemon. We fixed the issue with single battlers having duplicate Pokemon, which is why all the other battles are going by so fast. But we didn't fix it with double battles. There's only 2 double battles. Oh, and thank you for the follow. What is a Pogger? Thank you. Like the name. So far in the run up to Gym 2, there's only 2 double battles. So them taking like a minute or 2 each isn't the worst thing in the world. Compared to everything else where it just takes like a second or 2 to run, it's pretty bad. But we probably should fix it for double battles too. Basically, we have to send the message ourselves instead of relying on like the other things to send the message, or relying on like the environment that we're using to send the messages, because it kind of breaks in these situations where there are duplicate Pokemon. And in this case, there are duplicate Pokemon. There's 2 Purloins. For the sake of just showing it, because today we're not going to be doing a lot of runs. We're going to be working on the reinforcement learning thing. I think it's worthwhile to just go to that double battle, which the later double battle also has duplicates. I'm going to go ahead and just delete the duplicate for the double battle. Same with this one, which was Twins Kumi and Amy. I'm also going to just delete the duplicate. So technically, whenever we run the Nuzlocke right now, it will be cheating, but we're not trying to do any sort of official run right now. We're just trying to make sure everything is still working, and that's a known issue that we can deal with. So let's zoom through. It will eventually get through the battle. It just takes a long time. Like, it can get stuck repeating, trying to do the same thing over and over and over again for a long time. What we should do is we should have the players activate the timer, so the opponent only has a limited amount of time to make a move, which will make it a little bit faster. Is it still getting stuck at that battle? Did I save this? Because this is showing this is showing 2 Purloins, but there should only be 1 because I got rid of the other. Oh, it might force them to have two Pokemon. So for now, I'm just going to make them single battles. And then they'll just be treated exactly like everybody else. So we got it working the other day after being patient with it. But we're focusing on other things. Oh yeah, I probably had some sort of setting messed up. Like, chat should be open for everybody. And also, I'm actually multi-streaming on YouTube and Twitch simultaneously. But I think basically everybody is watching on Twitch. Yeah, I think everybody is in general. Okay, let's just see it finish a run so that way we know that everything is working. Honestly, the fact that it's actually getting into the run at all just tells us that our code restructure was a success. But just to prove that it was getting to Gym 2 and beating Gym 2, we can just let it run for a little bit. Let me pull up, actually. I can show replays. Yeah, there we go. Now it zoomed past that battle, no problem. Once it beats the gym leader, I'll open up the replay of the battle so you can see what it's doing against the gym leader. Because right now, if we try to watch them live, they go by way too fast. Like, if we just spam refresh, you can sometimes see them pop up for like a split second, but we're way too slow to click on them. Oh. Almost there, and okay, it beat leader Lenora. So let's open up a replay of what that final battle looked like. Let's go dark mode. Let's zoom in. What the heck? We'll play with music on. So this is what the battle was. It just did against Gym 2. You can see none of the Pokemon are evolved, despite the fact that they could have evolved. We're playing with hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which means no items in battle. Your level cap is the highest level of the next gym leader's team. So that's why everybody's at level 20 right now, because this gym leader has a level 20 Pokemon. We are, standard Nuzlocke rules apply where it's one encounter per route, no duplicates, permadeath, that kind of thing. We are playing with species clause, so there are no duplicates for the whole encounter line. If you lose a Pokemon, then you can't get the next evolution on a future route or something. And there we go. So that was the gym battle. Not a super climactic fight, but there were 2 losses. And so it's just proof that the model is working. And we can actually see from the log that exact information. That it lost Roggenrola and Pidove. And that all of the Pokemon it's lost so far was Purloin, Patrat, Panpour, Roggenrola, and Pidove. Actually, wait, it shouldn't have Panpour if it has Oshawott. I think one of the encounter information might be wrong in the encounters. Yeah, it should only have Panpour if it has a Snivy. So it's weird that it had a Panpour. It might actually be part of a different issue. Yeah, I don't know. It had Panpour for some reason, but oops. Other than that, it seems to be working. So I cleared out the old replays, and now let's now that we know that it's working, our old code is still working, I'm gonna go ahead and push this to GitHub, because now it's a little bit more usable or user-friendly. There's still lots of work, lots of documentation to be done. Eventually, I want to have like a read the docs type page for this as well. But that's a little bit a ways away. We're still in the data exploration kind of thing and doing things as a proof of concept. So code restructure. There we go. The code has now been pushed to GitHub, so the latest version of everything is there if you want to check it out yourself, either now or later or never. I'll start the music back up again that was playing. And I'm going to grab a drink real quick. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. I'm not a Twitch affiliate, so I can't run ads or anything. So instead, I'll just be back in like 5 minutes. And we can get this reinforcement learning model started now that we've got everything else organized and ready to go. Alright, I am back now. Just needed to get another drink. So let's start the reinforcement learning part. And to do that, we're going to be doing things first in a Jupyter notebook. Ooh. Got to see a question. Yeah, absolutely. And so for that kind of thing, figuring out how to use AI, we're going to be exploring it from a very friendly point of view right now, which is going to be in like a Jupyter notebook. I really recommend when you're first starting a new kind of machine learning or just a new project, rather than doing it in scripts like everything else is here in a very kind of professional structured manner, to do it in Jupyter Notebook. So I'm going to say Python -m Jupyter Notebook. Oh, I also really recommend like deep learning AI's courses on Coursera. They're really good courses. And like they're actually like very modern courses too. Like you can see like how the state of the art is done even today. So like if you're interested in like natural language processing, if you take their courses up to natural language processing, you'll see exactly how modern the best natural language processing things work. So let's go into notebooks. I'm going to create a new notebook. And this is going to be our exploration with reinforcement learning for Pokéenv. So there was a tutorial right here for reinforcement learning. So what we're going to do is copy paste from this tutorial for the most part and see if we can just get their initial tutorial working. If we can't get their initial tutorial working, then clearly we've got some problems. Oh, syntax error. Reward computing helper. I forgot to copy a parenthesis. Okay, so there we go. There's our just copy pasted thing. I think this is for Gen 8 random battles. And actually, I think we've disabled that on our Pokemon Showdown server. Let me check. Localhost 8192. We are running Pokemon Showdown locally. That way we don't mess with the real Pokemon Showdown. Okay, yeah, we have only enabled like these ones. So let me go into these configurations of the server, and I'm going to re-enable Gen 8 random battle. I think it's in formats. All right, Gen 8 random battle. True. Okay, so Gen 8 random battle should be re-enabled again, but I do need to reboot the server. So let's reboot the server. And after a quick reboot, we can see if it loads. There we go. Gen 8 random battle is a valid battle now, or is a valid format. It shows up in the format. For reference, our simulated battles are Gen 5 Hackmon battles, because we don't want to care about all of the specific details of is a team legal in competitive or legal at that level, knowing that set of moves. So our simulated battles, which we are simulating 100,000 different teams battling against each other, or so far 99998 teams battling against each other, is under this rule set, pure Hackmons. But this tutorial uses Gen 8 random battle, so for now we're just going to stick purely with the tutorial. We also need to import NumPy as NP, because this uses NumPy, I can tell. And I don't see that it uses anything else, so maybe that's okay. Alright, and then what we'll have to do is we'll have to say env player equals simple RL player. But where does simple RL player come from? Oh wait, that's the class we just created. Duh. Makes sense. So we've created a simple RL player. Connect call failed. Oh, we need to give it a server configuration. Right. Let me pull up an example of the server configuration. If we go here. All right. This, we have to tell it what Showdown server to connect to. By default, it'll try like localhost port 8000, and that's just not the right server. Server configuration equals server config. Oh, then we need to import that. Okay, it seems like it finished, and it created that simple reinforcement learning player. Now what we need to do is we need to build a base model. So we're just going to, again, follow exactly what their tutorial is, because we don't want to stray yet. We'll stray a little bit once we are, you know, customizing this to us and trying to improve the performance and doing everything else. But for now, I am perfectly fine with just direct copy pasting, making sure that it works. All right, and that code finished. Then we need to copy these lines. Ooh. Real quick, before I run this code and shoot myself in the foot again, I need to copy my GPU limiting code. There we go. Otherwise, this is probably going to use 100% of my GPU and kill the stream. And right now, at 12 viewers, this is the most concurrent viewers I have had. And it would be a shame for it to end just because I forgot to limit my GPU. Yeah, so we're going to limit it. It will only be allowed to have 4 gigs of RAM. We could actually step it up from 4 gigs of RAM, but for the sake of this, it's probably plenty. My graphics card in total has 24 gigs of RAM, so we could step it up a decent amount. And this is VRAM, by the way. Module not found RL. Oh, we need to import, or we need to pip install the correct thing. So pip install Keras RL to equals 1.0.3, because they tell us to use this specific version. Oh no. They want us to use an older version of Python. Alright, well, let's try it. Hopefully it's fine. It does say that version 1.0.4 seems to be causing problems with this example. Who knows, maybe it's been fixed on a later version, because now it's 0.1.5 or 1.0.5. DQN agent model output Keras tensor has invalid shape. Okay, let's see. Tackling a problem that essentially finds the parameters inside a game. Yeah, like that would be one way of doing it, is like a reinforcement learning type approach. But like I guess it depends on what's possible, because the requirement in order to do like reinforcement learning, like Q learning or something, is that you can repeatedly run it with repeatable conditions. So if there's an element of randomness in the calculation, so maybe that simple 2-parameter function also uses some random deviation, it might be hard. Like it kind of depends on what your most difficult thing is. Like obviously the easiest thing to do is toss out the machine learning altogether, dig inside the code, and find out how the function works, right? That's the most exact way, but it might not be possible. Or if the code is hosted somewhere else, or you don't have access to the source code, you know, that you have to approximate it. So for reinforcement learning, it assumes that you can kind of do this back and forth of simulating the game to do it. For pre-training the data, it just assumes that you can run the game a lot and store what happened, and then train a simple model. But yeah, like I think Q learning could be what you're digging into, but the difficulty is just, what is your biggest challenge? Is it the running the game many times, and that's why you can't train a model on previous experience? Is it that the rules change? You know, like that kind of changes your thinking. Yeah, so like if basically if every function is changing, or they change over a time even, then Q learning could be a good idea if you have the capability for like the memory of the Q learning to be relatively limited. So otherwise, and we'll see as we're playing around with this, it could learn an old rule set and be very resistant to changing it, or not adapt very well. Okay, let's see what issue with Keras RL2. Yeah. Dang, somebody else caught this exact same issue that we're running into 9 days ago, but it hasn't been resolved. Shoot. Well, I guess we could try to just find out why this error is happening, because this seems like a pretty simple error. We're not actually using a lot of things from the player model yet, like end player. Shows up here. Here, and yeah, that's the only places it shows. So it's really just whenever we're getting the length of the action space. Which in this case, if we say model.summary, we can see that this action space is a 22-dimensional action space. And why is this failing? This is failing DQN expects a model that has one dimension for each action, in this case 18. Oh, wait, is this just supposed to be equal to the length of the action space, like an action? Okay, so there's one thing that we got fixed. Yeah, so I'm gonna be editing together some smaller YouTube videos. I put it off just because I've been changing jobs recently. And something that I want to do for my first few videos is gonna be creating some like kind of intro tutorial videos as well. The VODs are all uploaded on the channel, so if you do want to check out the VODs, you can, but it just depends on what you find will be helpful. It's not monetized right now because I think I have like 5 subscribers and like 4 or 5 VODs on the channel because I just started this whole thing this year. But there might be ads because YouTube will run ads on non-monetized or not qualifying channels. So if you do see ads, if you check out the VODs on my YouTube channel, which is Volunteer AI, by the way, link in the description, then, you know, it's not me making money off of it. I'm not making money off of any of this stuff yet. Thank you for the compliment. No idea, though. I have to actually get around to editing things and putting them on YouTube, though. I've been putting it off so much, but I think this weekend I've just got to sit down and do it. Like, I've put it off, like, oh, I'm going to watch some videos about how to edit, and I'm going to try to figure it out. I bought Adobe Premiere. I spent like $200 on Adobe Premiere, and I still haven't got around to doing it. I thought maybe biting the bullet and buying it would give me the motivation I need. It still hasn't. But thank you. I'm hoping this year to just, you know, start doing it. It doesn't really matter the sub count or the viewers, though it is really nice to be able to chat like this as I'm working on stuff. But yeah. Miser I Love, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. And actually, my goal is within a couple of months to get to at least like Twitch affiliate, which is a relatively low threshold. But part of that is getting to 50 followers, which I'm at like 26 followers now with your recent follow. So, you know, thank you for your support. And if you you know, if you like the content, stick around, and I'll be doing this at least all year. It's my New Year's resolution for this year, and I've stuck through it for at least a month already. Okay, let's get this actually training, because now here's the interesting part. So this is going to do 1,000 battles, or no, 100,000 battles. Runtime error. This event loop is already running. Error, multiple exceptions, connection. Oh, okay. Oops. Okay, we can stop this running because I know what is going wrong with the first error. Don't know if it'll fix it with the second error. But just like we told the simple RL player what server to connect to, we need to tell our random player what server to connect to. I need coffee. Thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. Yeah, like that's something I noticed is like not a lot of streamers do machine learning, and then even for YouTubers that do machine learning, they tend to just do like kind of tutorial videos of like showing you how to do MNIST, which is like digit recognition. And it's just kind of the same old things that you could find much better tutorials for. So I kind of want to do more interesting content from my perspective. This event loop is already running. I know what is causing this problem, so I can easily fix it. I don't know what the demand is like for that. But my idea, especially later on this is just kind of a trial project for now, is to do more interesting and exciting projects that even have a physical element to it. Kind of like a Michael Reeves of machine learning type stuff. His content's really great. So my job is data scientist. I'm a lead data scientist at a startup here in Tokyo. So I'm fairly well versed with just kind of general data science and machine learning. But yeah, well, okay, you say, but I actually upload, but I still haven't uploaded like any edited video to YouTube. So it's just kind of a curse at this point. Okay. So I'm getting various errors. Let's see if we restart and run all cells. Yeah, like the VODs automatically upload just from streaming. But yeah, so I need to get around to editing the videos so that things can be better. Virtual devices cannot be modified after initialized. Okay. Sequential object has no attribute compile time distribution strategy. Interesting. Yeah, like honestly, my biggest advice for that kind of thing of going through your hurdles is you just have to never get discouraged. It's okay to kind of shift gears and work on something else if you think a problem is annoying. But I think that's the kind of biggest strength you can have as a developer, whether it's machine learning or anything else, is to not let yourself get like discouraged and like give up from an error, and not to like throw your hands up and be like, I have no idea what's going on. It might come off like I know what's going on in error messages, but for example, for this error message, got no idea what's going on. But we will try to figure it out, and I'm sure there's some sort of solution. The error might have started happening whenever I added this code. It's weird. We were getting past this point earlier, which is interesting to me. But either way, I really do want to edit the videos, or at least have edited videos. Because I think that'll be a good way of doing kind of better content long term.
Our struggle as artists isn't about appeasing the crowd.
Let's copy paste this error message into Google.
It's about tending to the broken parts inside of ourselves.
Okay.
It's a reflection of this struggle. To study our perception of self. That way isn't necessarily a thing you achieve. Rather, it is a state of mind.
For the model,
to strive toward.
did we use TensorFlow or did we use Keras?
That idea
We used TensorFlow Keras.
like water.
Okay, so here we used TensorFlow Keras. Here we're using TensorFlow Keras. Maybe this Keras RL is the problem then. We might have to use a different library? Maybe. TensorFlow Keras RL. It might not work the most with other libraries. Let's look up TensorFlow reinforcement learning and see if there's just a different library we can do. Since you might not be aware, with TensorFlow there was recently or relatively recently, a restructuring, and TensorFlow now became TensorFlow 2.0, which changed the way of how a lot of things work. And so a lot of older libraries, including Keras, some things that were built with those things in mind, broke. So what we're going to do now is try to find what is a more modern approach so that we can get it working. But do they use like OpenAI Gym? Okay. So this can work. It can load the right environment. DQN. Okay, so this is all building like a sequential model similar to what we had just done. And this creates the agent that then can play it. I wish we could just use the example. This is for collecting replay data. Unfortunately, for how TensorFlow works in the background, it's very hard to directly interface with it, which means your code gets very, very complicated very fast. But at least it's very customizable. Yeah, exactly. Like that's like one of the main problems with machine learning libraries right now. It's getting better. It's actually better than it was before. But it's changing so much and there's not a standard. So it can be very hard to get things just working. And actually TensorFlow used to be a lot worse. TensorFlow now is better, but in order to become better, they had to change a lot of stuff so that even more stuff broke. It used to be the case that if you trained a model on TensorFlow 1.13 and then loaded that model using TensorFlow 1.14, didn't work. You had to completely retrain your model or write some custom code to try to fetch the weights and restore them in a new model, and it just was a huge pain. So it was just not good. You know what? I wonder if my if this is part of the problem from the like Keras installing, like the pip install rl Keras 2 or Keras rl2. Requirement already satisfied. Yeah, like even so, like machine translation, which is a field that I'm fairly familiar with, the current state of the art, or actually the old method that the modern companies don't use anymore, that old method came out from a paper in 2016. And nobody uses it anymore from like a state-of-the-art point of view. So it's like even like the architectures of models changes so fast that it's hard to have professional code that keeps up with it. The question is, what do we do about this? Because I'm not sure what part is breaking. If we just leave out all of the environment stuff right now. So we leave out all of this Pokenv whatever nonsense, right? My question is, can we get it working with just as is the Keras libraries? Because maybe the issue can be solved that way. So let's just make this 22. Okay, so now it's working. So it's something about importing the env player stuff that's causing an issue. So if we get rid of this block, run everything again. Okay, now it's fine still. Where does it become a problem? If we create this simple RL player class, still not a problem. Now if we instantiate that class as an env player, it's still working. Very confusing. Training for 100,000 steps. Tensor is not a graph. Okay. We were so close to it just randomly working. That would be nice. Are any of these, if we dig deep in Pokenv? Yep. Some of them are in Pokenv. So part of the problem is in Pokenv, which is curious. Pokenv player. So it's calling this env algorithm wrapper, which then calls env algorithm on the player, which then is running something, and then it digs deep into the Keras and TensorFlow stuff. So what this tells us is that something is happening, and the Pokenv library is doing something in a wrong way. So let's dig into the code then a little bit and see why might that be. We're hopefully not going to have to fix anything in here. It's probably in player, env player. Yep. Okay. So what's going on whenever we create this env player? Yeah, I should probably like zoom, like configure the zoom, like, because unfortunately, like, some things like Jupyter Notebooks don't like work too well at higher zooms. Like this bar ends up like messing up a little bit. Would you say it's more of an issue in the Jupyter Notebooks or like in the GitHub? Like which kind of font do you think is causing more of an issue? Notebooks. Okay, yeah, I can play around with some of the font settings in the notebook to try to get it to pop more on screen. I think that'll help. Okay, so we're creating this player. Which this is all just completely normal stuff with no machine learning. Action to move is just an abstract thing. So it'll initialize a battle, it'll add it to a queue, so it's using like a queuing system. It'll, to complete a current battle, it'll forfeit by just responding to that queue. Embed battle. That's what we just wrote here, which is embed battle. So what this is doing is the base power is just being set to a bunch of negative ones. The multiplier is just a bunch of ones. We're going through each move, setting the base power equal to the base power divided by 100. And then we are multiplying the multiplier. Which is just telling it how strong are each of its moves. So this is a very, very basic approach. Then remaining mon team is just how many Pokemon are fainted divided by 6. Remaining mon opponent is how many Pokemon on the opponent's team are fainted divided by 6. And then it concatenates all of this stuff into one 22-dimensional thing. I don't know why it's 22-dimensional. Move base power. Oh, base power then. So 4 plus 4 plus 6 plus 6. Which is 20. So I'm not sure where they're getting 22 from in the action space. Or wait, no, this is just the input. This isn't the action space. Never mind. Okay, and then compute reward. We'll say self.reward computing helper, which is just a built-in function giving specific values like fainted equals 2, HP equals 1, victory value equals 3. Okay, but where does any sort of like gym stuff come in? Env. Here we go. This is a... Ugh, there's so many env. Recommended use is with play against. Okay, that's fine. So this is just an OpenAI gym thing. Env algorithm, like, how is this expected to work at the end? This is expected to work by passing in this DQN training thing, which will fit the model first, and then it will just forfeit the battle. So it'll try again and again, like 100,000 battles on the model, trying to find the best answer. Let's see what Karis RL recommends for doing something with a open gym thing. Wow, their documentation is very limited. That's great. Even Karis RL's documentation is very limited. Cool. Nice that their documentation says, "Write me." Is there at least an overview? There we go. Okay, here's the common API. Is there a tutorial on how they get this working though? Oh, this is the old Karis RL. We need Karis RL 2. Oops. That's the old one, not the new one. And this repository has been archived too. Great. Yeah. Nice. Is the documentation the same? Probably not. Okay, let's hope the documentation for the documentation for Karis RL2 is somehow even worse. Welcome to read the docs. This is an auto-generated index file. It's somehow even worse than the documentation for the original Karis RL. At least this had tabs, like they were gonna fill it out. This just doesn't even have tabs. Ugh. That's cool. Alright, well, let's just check out the example. We're gonna look at DQN cart pull. So they get the environment, which is in this case like our end player type thing. They're setting some random seeds, and they get the action space. Yeah, exactly. Like, especially for deep reinforcement learning. There are some other libraries you can use, like I think Nice is one. I think it's called Nice. Yeah. There's a library for Nice. And something. You can find it. But what we want to do is probably a little bit more advanced for just a simple like table approach, which are what a lot of those will be. So blah. This is great. It seems like this is basically what he was copying though. The policy, he had a different policy. DQN equals DQN agent. DQN.compile. Okay. It gets compiled. DQN.fit. The player counts as an environment with a number of steps and all that. So let's try breaking this down a little bit more. And let's copy from this example instead. Okay, so I'm going to restart the cell. Now what we need to do, I'm going to copy all of this stuff to the very beginning. Restart it. Run this cell. And run this cell. So this is creating our environment player. Now what we need to do is we need to say it's going to be equal to, like, the env player counts as an open gym environment. So it should have exactly the same values. And now we're going to copy this exact same model exactly as it was done before. Oops, dot n. Attribute error. List has no attribute n. Okay, so clearly the action space of this environment and this environment are different action spaces. This is not the same kind of environment. Which already tells us something is kind of breaking compared to what we're expecting. So one potential breaking issue. Name error. Env is not defined. Oh, plus env player. The observation space. None type attribute has no attribute shape. Uh-oh, that's another bad thing. So for the example code on here, if we go back to the example reinforcement learning, it's getting pretty close to next stream. We're going to be doing a tutorial on how do you contribute to open source coding, because we're going to be taking a look at the internals, and making a lot of edits. And I think that's something that we cannot avoid at this point. So, all right, for their example, their model, their input shape was 1/10. Okay, that's fine. So we're gonna just do 1/10 and cut out this. That's fine. Name error. NB actions is not defined. Dense NB actions, because we call it N action. There we go. Okay. So we did have to make some changes. But now we're going to go to the next one and do... Ooh, we still need the GPU configuration. Notably. Like that part is still very important. Does this import TensorFlow as TF? We need to do that. Import TensorFlow as TF. So we're going to again replace this. And I'm going to cut this. Let's restart and run all cells. NB actions is not defined. Oh, because we called it N action. Did this call it NB actions or something? Yeah. So let's just replace NB actions with N action. Okay, so now the model's actually compiling. It was never able to get this far before. What happens if we do dqn.fit NB steps? Because before, what we had to do was we had to say nv player or env player.play against. So I don't think that will work, but let's try copying this code. And we need to once again do the server config. And here we need to import a random player from pokenv.player.random player import random player. Okay, so let's copy this server config all the way down here, and then server configuration equals server config. Runtime error. The event loop is already running. And that's in Pokémon, I guess. This seems to be an async IO error though. So what I'm gonna do, because I know Jupyter Notebooks sometimes doesn't play nicely with this stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and create another file out here. I'm just gonna call it test dqn.py. This is only where it's gonna live temporarily, just while we are testing to see if it's the Jupyter Notebook that's the problem. Because I know Jupyter Notebooks doesn't exactly play super nicely with async IO. Partially because Jupyter Notebooks already works in an async IO way. And that kind of causes some problems. All right. So I'm gonna close out of the Jupyter Notebook. And now let's see if test dqn.py will give us any better results. I kind of doubt it. I think it's still gonna run into an issue. Okay, there we go. There's our issue that we were waiting to run into. Jeez. It is not letting me control C out of this. That's fun. Okay, so it seems like the error, if we kind of dive in a little bit, is... Okay, inside the run, inside the environment player, it's fitting dqn.fit. It's computing the queue values, computing batch queue values, predicting on batch, trying to get the graph that it's using for the model, and then failing, saying that the activation is not an element of this graph. As for why it's not an element of this graph, who knows? That's not clear to me. In this case, it's saying activation 3, which would be this activation right here, the last activation. In the example model, do they do anything different for their last layer of their model? Not particularly. I mean, they have it as just part of the same. And then for their DQN agent, we're saying NB actions equals N action. Do they actually have an example with like the, yeah, all of the code in one place? This is different from what they did earlier. They're creating the model in the same way. This code is yet again different, but most of the stuff is the same. So like this they didn't just copy paste this code into their example documentation is what I mean. Like that, like I know that sounded vague, but that's what I mean is that this code has extra features that aren't in their tutorial, so maybe their example code works. I don't think so. Like I'd imagine that it also fails. Okay, I've copy pasted the whole code. The only thing that I need to add is just that GPU code from my notebook. Because otherwise stream's gonna crash. So there it is. Alright, let's try running just directly. Oh, right. I have to close this and open a new console because not only did it have to fail, it had to fail so hard I can't even use that window anymore. There we go. Zoomed back in. Test dqn.py. Using the example. The remote... Oh! Okay, I know that error. That error is because of the server configuration stuff. So, interestingly, the players are able to at least reach out to the Showdown server. So it's not just completely failing. Pokeenv dot... Or I'll just copy paste it from here. It's not just failing and doing nothing, it's at least getting somewhere into it before it fails. Which I think is actually kind of hopeful, because, you know, that kind of means that what we're doing is on the right track, at least. Server configuration is equal to server config. I had to delete the thing again. I clicked the wrong one. Open command window here. And /script/activate. Just dqn. Tensor dense 2 bias add shape none by 22 is not an element of this graph, and then it freezes and it steals it forever. So what can we learn from this? Because this is failing online. If we look, it's in the training process. That's where it fails, which is in this first play against. It gets to the point where it can compile a model, but it's not able to do this first training thing. Let's, in a separate window, kind of follow the process through with like the deeper code and see if we can kind of match up what we're seeing. So what it's going to do is it's going to call play against. So let's go to the GitHub. Player, end player. Okay. So first it calls play against, which is this one. So it creates then some extra internal functions. One to launch battles between the user and the opponent. And this is simple machine learning stuff. It's going to launch a battle between the two. And then this end algorithm wrapper. So what this is going to do is this is going to run the end algorithm, which in this case is whatever we pass in on the first line. So in our case, we're passing in DQN training. So it's going to run the function DQN training when this is called. It's going to run DQN training with player and then the keyword args, which are the DQN, which is this DQN agent thing, and like the number of steps. So it's going to run this DQN training function is what this wrapper function will do, and then it will close out of the battles after it's done, is what this is doing. It's just completing all of the battles until there are no more battles. So if it finishes training, then it can just stop. Makes sense. It gets the loop, the async IO loop. It creates a thread object, which is this environment algorithm wrapper. It starts the thread, and then while it is live, it is running launch battles between the self and opponent. And launch battles was this first function. So that's what's happening here. We are, and like the subclasses are just for doing the action space, getting the action space just right. So here, this becomes even harder to debug because they're spinning up a separate thread, which is annoying, because now this is detached from the main process. So errors will no longer be clear where they are occurring, which is why here it says exception found in thread 1. Okay, so now that part makes sense. We got to this point where it's spinning up a thread, and we can cross-reference that here, that there was an exception in that thread. Okay, makes sense. And that thread is just to run the training algorithm. So basically, in the main thread, which isn't this spun up one, it's just simulating a lot of battles. In the other thread, that's where it's using the results of the battles to improve the model. And I guess they're sharing that model object across the two threads. So in threading.py, self.run, so it's running. And then again, threading.py, it uses the target function, which is this algorithm wrapper, which is then running DQN training, which is then running core. It says action equals self.forward observation. It's computing the queue values, computing the queue batch values. Then as soon as it starts trying to apply the model, that's where it fails. Because as soon as it tries to use the model, it gets the graph, and the graph is not working. It says tensor dense 2 is not an element of this graph. So this seems to me like it might actually not be a problem with the environment we're using, which might be good. Now, okay, I say that, but it might be that something is broken in the connection between TensorFlow, like the modern TensorFlow that you install, and this like Keras RL2 library. Because clearly this Keras RL2 library is not the most supported library in the world. The documentation for the old version is lacking, let alone the newer documentation. So I think what it means then is that we need to deep dive into the code and replace our Keras implementation, our Keras reinforcement learning, with something else, which might not be an issue, because all that PokeEnv is actually doing is it's just running the training at the same time as it's simulating battles. So it is a little bit more complicated than a normal example would be, but it's not that much more complicated. So let's verify for ourselves a little bit by going to Keras RL2. going to their examples. Now what I want to do is, since we've kind of investigated it a little bit, I'm actually going to get rid of all of that original code, and I'm just going to use their built-in example. And of course, create a new command window, because every single time it just breaks the command window. Okay, so I was missing some libraries. Let's just go ahead and say pip install gym all, just to get rid of any potential issues. It's just better to just install all of these things. Oops, I should probably not have done that, because now our progress bar is all messed up. I'm just going to move that over to the side and check out their recommended installation process. We already have gym, and I think we already have H5Py. Let's install in some other libraries. And so this is going to be doing the traditional cart pull problem, which is where you've got a cart and a movable pole on top of the cart, and the pole can fall to either side. And so the action space of the user is to move the cart side to side at different speeds to try to balance the pole. And luckily with this library, at least it claims that you can visualize the testing process, or even the training process of the model. Oh, I should probably also, before I really run it, copy our safety code, the GPU stuff. All right. So you can see the cart pull thing. It's training it. And it fails as soon as it falls over. The longer it lasts without it falling over, the more reward it gets. So every time you can see it just kind of like skip a little bit and a new line is added to the log, it's because the thing fell to the point of no return. And it just cuts early. But every time that it's lasting longer, and we can see some of these are lasting like a second and a half or 2.3 seconds, the more reward it gets. So the objective is for it to just last as long as possible while balancing. So it actually is training a model just fine using this environment. Now, this is about as simple as an environment as you can get for, yeah, like that's something I would consider. I actually do have my old GPU that's basically just doing nothing. I have it on my NAS, but it's really not even doing anything there either. Like, I don't need it for video encoding. So I could stick it in my computer and just use it as like a streaming card. The current GPU that I'm using, just while this is training, I can pull it up. I'm not going to have it trained for the whole process. Because also, obviously, visualizing it is slowing it down by a lot. Just to talk specs of my machine, obviously this is well beyond what you actually need to do this type of thing. But I have a Threadripper 3960X, so it's a 24-core processor. I've got 256 gigs of RAM. It's like right now, because of some memory issues, I need to figure it out. I have 3600 megahertz RAM, but it's showing as 2666 because of some issues with overclocking the RAM. So I just need to set it back to the normal speed. And I have an RTX A5000, which is a workstation graphics card that's a little, like, it's basically between a 3080 and a 3090. It's got the same amount of VRAM as a 3090, but performance-wise, it's around, like, kind of between those two. A little bit better than a 3080, but a little bit worse than a 3090. And I actually got it for not a bad price, like basically MSRP, which if you look up MSRP is still pretty expensive for a workstation graphics card. But it's, I didn't pay any extra fee for the graphics card above MSRP, which is basically all you can hope for nowadays. Okay, so it's trained for over 6,000 steps, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it to stop training. And now it's testing for 5 episodes. Okay, so it worked in their specific example, which means that it's the integration between this library for reinforcement learning and the Pokemon environment that we're running into issues. I wish that wouldn't be the case, but it does seem to be the case. And I think our kind of hints that we found earlier were indicating this to be the problem. Because just addressing the action space was different, whether we were using this environment player or using like a real open gym environment. So I think that's the core part of the issue. We can try out a different example too, just to see if something more complicated is working as well. Yeah. Let's check out if something that actually involves more of a complicated process is also facing the same issue. So I'm gonna, again, just replace all of this. I'm gonna take all of our imports, put them up here, but I'm just also going to import TensorFlow as TF. That way our GPU configuration works. Okay, and then they said for the Atari example, we also needed to import some other libraries. We needed to do pip install gym Atari and pip install Hello. Okay. So now let's try test our Python test DQ, and then it was asking for mode. It wants us to run it with a different mode, depending on if we want to train or test. So it's using argparse. It loads all of this stuff, loads the DQN model, and then if it's testing, it's gonna load that. If args.mode is train, then it'll that. So let's see. Do they have like just a simple where do they have like a simple thing of just like, you know, run it like this to use it? They do not. Okay, well, we'll just trial by fire. Mode equals train. Ah, there we go. Dash mode train. Impart warming. Jim no longer distributes ROMs. If you own a license, I see. We were unable to find the game Breakout. Jim no longer distributes ROMs. If you own a license to use the necessary ROMs for research. Yes, I definitely own the license. Of course I own the license to Breakout from 30 years ago. Or more than 30 years ago. Why not? Also, I'm doing this so that I can train an AI to play Pokemon. So, I think I've probably accepted that I will be in the gray area legally about ROMs and piracy anyways. So, yeah. Okay, so this is saying it's going to train for 1.75 million steps of training, doing 10,000 at a time on GPU. What's my performance looking at on my GPU? I like for memory, I could actually bump up the memory. I'm only using about 7 gigs, so I could bump up the memory and it would be going by faster. Yeah, but hey, I'm on a VPN, so you know, maybe that gets me around it. Yeah, Nintendo is crazy about piracy. Just in general, everything is crazy about piracy here. The only humorous thing is that there is a at the start of movies here in movie theaters, there's always an entertaining anti-piracy ad before the movie plays. Okay. I'm going to let this run for a couple of steps, and then we'll rerun it in training. This, just like the previous one, you can do Control-C to stop it partway. Yeah, this one has like it's like a Toho Cinemas one. You know what? I wonder. This is like a layer of extra added irony. Let me see if I can find it. Toho Cinemas anti Piracy. There we go. This is the ad. Oh wait, no, this isn't the ad. Maybe this is the ad. That is their slogan that plays at the end. Yeah, so there's an extra added layer of defiance that I also show a pirated copy of their ad on stream. So there we go. Now we're just definitely in trouble if they catch on. Oop, guess I can't do that. There we go. If you have a progress bar going and you resize the command line, it causes all kinds of problems. I guess I'm not sure what the evaluation metric for this is, but so it's pretty clear to me that, you know, it works for traditional environments. So maybe what we'll have to do is we'll have to dig into the Pokémon code to make it act more like a normal environment. Because I think those hints of it just not having the same functions is the real root cause. Jeez, the performance just tanked for some reason. I don't know why. Did it stop using GPU or something? Testing for 10 episodes. Did it open up a window? There's the window. But does it not start? So it's even struggling to even to test the results. So it might just be the library that we're using. We've got to find a different library. Because it's just stopping immediately and not doing anything. Like there's no playing that's happening here. Well, maybe that means it'll have to be some research into better ones and also opening up a pull request. So I think that would be an interesting stream to do. Maybe I'll do like an extra stream on, well, no, not an extra stream on Sunday. What I'm going to do on Sunday is edit YouTube videos. Hold me to that. If you're here on stream on Tuesday and I haven't uploaded anything, fuss at me. And I don't know. I don't know what I would owe you. I can't do anything like gift subs or money because I'm not even an affiliate, let alone a partner. But if I haven't done YouTube videos by Tuesday, you need to, let me know that I'm not being a good content creator. But I think that'll be the idea for Tuesday's stream. Is I'll start by talking a little bit about, open source contributing, which I've done a couple of times. Not the most. I generally like to make my own library and put it out there rather than get involved in an already existing one. But I think it'd be an interesting stream to do. And I think it'll solve a lot of the problems that we're running into. Or it'll just it'll be the right way of solving the problems. So we'll try to do it to solve a couple of different things. There's actually been some issues. There's a really simple issue that I raised a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. That would be very easy to fix. It's a quick fix, but it's just in the to-do. So what I could do is I could help out by just fixing that. To make that like the very first part of next Tuesday's stream, and then to start doing like the ones that are more relevant for the problems we're facing right now, which is the restructuring the environment, and getting it working for us. There you go. So my general schedule is Tuesday, Thursdays. I stream. I typically stream at starting at around like anywhere between 6 and 7 p.m. Japan time, and then I stream for like anywhere between 4 and 6 hours. So I started streaming today at 7, so I've been streaming for 3.5 hours so far. I do technically have to go to the office tomorrow, or I'm going to go to the office tomorrow. My new job allows me to work from home a lot more. So I started streaming relatively earlier today. But, yeah, that's my general idea. And I want to leave some time for editing and for other things to do. I'm not streaming full-time by any means, because I do have a full-time job. But, yeah, so I think that would be a good idea to do Tuesday. And then hopefully, once I kind of get over this procrastination of making YouTube videos, I'll also be doing like maybe twice weekly YouTube videos. Which, like, I'm thinking maybe once a week there'll be some sort of more tutorial style video where it's not part of a stream. It's just me writing something that is a tutorial. And one video that's an edited down version of a stream where it's like project based. But of course, I'm open to any and all suggestions of what works. I've not posted anything other than VODs, and on YouTube I've got 5 subscribers, so it's not like it's an established thing by any means. But yeah, so other than that, I think I might call it a day here, since we are at a bit of a roadblock, and I don't want to dive into pulling the code and editing it right now. So I think that'll be the end of stream here, unless you guys have any questions about Tokyo or AI or machine learning. That's just kind of simple. But yeah, so it's it was somewhat productive. We at least did get some things done today, though, which was reorganizing the code. So that was something that needed to get done, and I was putting it off for a long time, and now it's done. Yeah, absolutely. Stop by. I've been streaming every Tuesday, Thursday since the start of this year, and I'm gonna keep up with it. Like, even a couple of people that I'm working with now, they know that I stream. They don't know what my stream handle is or anything like that, but they technically know that I do stream. So who knows? So they're gonna hold me to it probably. So I may as well keep up with it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back next Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have also uploaded some edited videos by then. And yeah, so hopefully by the time I am working on stuff next Tuesday, I'll have uploaded some, at least like maybe a part 1 of this project in a more concise format. Alright, thanks everybody. It's been a great stream. This was one of the better ones. Thanks for stopping by.